All right, good morning to everybody. Thank you so much for being here at the Seniors Real Estate Specialist Networking Meetup Group meeting today. We're so happy to have April join us today, and we're going to talk about, not dead yet. I just love
Yes,
that.
that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yes. And so go ahead, April. We're going to have you go ahead and get started.
Okay, sounds good. Well, welcome everyone. And Skip, thank you for inviting me. And Julie, thanks for hosting me. Welcome. You're in the right place. This is one of my favorite images. I'm not dead yet. There's so much talk about aging, and there's so much ageism in the world. And I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here because you guys focus on older adults. But just quickly, if you don't know a little bit about me, I am a gerontologist. So I come at everything. And what does that mean? I'm not a doctor. I'm a social gerontologist. So I look at everything from the aging individual's perspective. What is it like to grow older? Some of us know what that's like. We're all getting older by the day, every single one of us. So I look at everything from the lens of growing older, what it means for individuals, organizations, families. And essentially, I have been a care manager for the last 3 years. I've been in healthcare and aging for about 35 plus years. And most recently, I've been a care manager. So these are just a snapshot of a few of the clients that I have worked with. And like you become very involved with these people. You understand their stories, what they're going through. And as a care manager, some of you might be familiar with Aging Life Care Associates. I'm an aging life care manager. I walk on the journey with older adults every day, helping them through everything from can they still stay at home? Do they need to move? To B, walking them to the end of their life. As a matter of fact, Betty there on the right with her gin bottle is from London. And when I first met her, she said, "Oh, darling, can you please take me to the store to get my gin?" And I thought, is this in my job description? Should I be doing this? But she's not dead yet. Betty was 95 years old, had been living independently. And unfortunately, up until, just recently, she had been on her own. And I'll tell you very quickly, she lost her cat while she was in rehab. Her cat died of, she had that cat forever. And Betty just died this weekend. And I think that loneliness and the transition of having that change in her life really was so hard for her. But as I was caring for these individuals, I realized that, I work very hard and I can only help people one on one. So I'm out there with one client at a time, three clients at a time, five clients at a time. And I felt just, the need to share more information. I said, we've got to help people age better. And that's really my mission. So I started Bold Not Old as a way to educate and help people understand that you're not dead yet. As long as you're above ground, you have values, you have preferences, you have opinions, and you do have some capacity to make your life better. And so that's really what Bold Not Old is about. My background, along with gerontology, is wellness. So I spent a lot of my career in the space of trying to keep people healthy. I don't need to tell you what we're up against in the next upcoming years with the growth of the aging population and the fact that we're not prepared. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like we're really underestimating the impact that the growth of the aging population is going to have. Resources, even all of my clients, quite frankly, had all the money in the world. They could have anything that they wanted. They could live where they wanted. They can buy services, and yet what was available to them, to me, was not good enough. So I feel like we've got to talk more about how can we each take some ownership and do whatever we can to age well and also just to live well. So that's what we're going to talk about. And here's some of the facts. Some of the stuff is not new for you. We already know the population is growing. We're living longer, but not better. And that's what I keep coming back to. I see people again. My client was 96. She had done great up until the very end. She's really kind of the example of extending that health span so that she was living independently without support until the very end. And when she did need help, she just wasn't, she didn't want anything to do with it. She did not want to be in a nursing home. Chronic disease is what we're dealing with as we're aging, and that is largely preventable. So there are so many things we can do. And mindset, how we approach our aging journey, plays a huge, huge role. So I'm going to go through a little bit about that with you. And we're hearing more about this. People are starting to talk. Longevity is a word we see a lot now, right? What does that mean? Just today on the Today Show, there was a doctor and a nutritionist on there talking about longevity. So we're talking about it, but we need to understand how can we live better, right? So that's what I'm going to talk about. A book that really changed my life is called Breaking the Age Code. I don't know if anybody has read this book or has heard of it, but I would highly recommend you checking it out. But here's what grabbed me is from the research in this book, and Dr. Becca Levy, she's a Yale professor. This was some of her research. Beliefs about aging directly affect our health and our lifespan. So we're all familiar with the term ageism, right? Those attitudes, those beliefs, and some of those come from society, that is a youth society looking at, oh, you're not, beautiful unless you're young, or you're not vibrant unless you're young. But it also comes internally. And I think internally has more of an impact. And by that, I mean, if we act and feel old, we're going to live old, which means our habits and our behaviors are going to start to change to the point where I think we really start living fully, right? And that's why I start that slide with, I'm not dead yet. As long as I am alive, I should, we should embrace our life and the transitions with it, right? We're not 20 anymore. We're not 30, 40, 50. Some of us are 60, 70, 80, 90, right? But we still have a life to live. We need to have purpose. We need to have connections, all of those good things. So I thought this was interesting. And you can see here on this slide that the research showed that individuals with positive beliefs about aging lived longer, on average 7.5 years longer than those people with negative beliefs. So if you think about somebody in your life who might be, who's just sort of, well, I'll call that person the one who retires and retires to the recliner, right? Where they only sit and look at the TV screen or look out the window. They stop engaging in their life. They stop connecting with other people. They stop doing things that they love. Those are the differences, I think, between the positive and the negative age beliefs. And indeed, the research shows that the more positive you are about and that doesn't mean you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like a spring chicken. No, it just means that, hey, I am living, I am a vibrant individual. I have limitations, perhaps. For example, I have, some fairly significant arthritis. I can't do the things I used to do, but I can modify and I am resilient. So those are important. The mindset also influences the physical and cognitive health. So it's not just how long we live, because remember what I said earlier, we're living longer. We're not necessarily living better. When we think about years and years and years and years ago, when people, the average life expectancy was maybe, 45. When people were more, raising their families on farms and the Industrial Revolution, all those things, we didn't have to deal with growing older, right? We were gone before we were dealing with the things we're dealing with now. So those positive age beliefs also improve our physical function and our memory. So everyone thinks dementia is inevitable. That's all we see, quite frankly. I don't know about you, but I mean, I think people have made it so normal that we expect that, yeah, we're gonna just have dementia, we're gonna have disease, we're gonna have disability. It is not inevitable. And I will hear people talking about, well, my dad had heart disease, so I'm gonna have heart disease. Mom had diabetes, I'm gonna have diabetes. That's not true at all. That is not true at all. So if nothing else, my intention with the work that I'm doing now with this presentation is to plant some seeds that not everything bad about aging is inevitable. And how we think and how we live our lives can significantly impact the quality of our life. And the quality of our life is really dependent on you, right? What does that mean to you? Because what matters to me may not matter to someone else. And that goes to what I call, everybody has heard the term person-centered care, right? And that is establishing care and help around what's important to the individual. And negative age stereotypes do become self-fulfilling. Those internalized beliefs, they can reduce engagement in healthy behaviors. Well, what does it matter? I'm going to go ahead and eat that carton of ice cream because, hey, I'm going to die anyway. And, mom had diabetes, so I'm going to get it. So you just start to look at your life in a way that is self-fulfilling, and it's not necessary. So excellent book. I highly recommend it. What I think is important too is that, and I don't know, how are you guys familiar with lifespan versus health span?
Yep.
Okay, I'm okay. Chip, yeah. So lifespan versus health span. I think this is very, very important. So the average lifespan, and that's on average. Oh, no, that's actually wrong. Average life expectancy, that top line there, that should say life expectancy, is about 78 to 79 years. Okay. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that's getting closer and closer for me, right? So again, on average, we live about 78, 79 years. That's again, averages. Okay. Shocking to me. And actually, when I'm in person with people, I kind of have a ribbon that I put up. So if you can imagine, if this ribbon is 100 years, where are you on that continuum? Okay, I'm over here, I'm 62, so I'm about right here. And if my average lifespan, if I'm going to live the average, I only have, how many years left? Not many, right? But if I could expand that, so lifespan, on the other hand, is the total number of years you can live, right? So you hear more and more people, more centenarians living to be 100 plus. That's not the average. Again, we put it together. But the lifespan is, what can a human being, how long can we live as human beings? And I think, now I can't remember what the longest one was. It was 109, 100 and something like that in another country. So again, our bodies are only built to live so long. That's another thing. We're not going to live forever. So let's focus on those good years, right? And that's the health span. Those are the years you live in good health with independence and vitality. Okay, that's your health span. So you've got life expectancy, you've got lifespan. Most people now, you're going to start to hear more and more people talking about the health span, right? Because once you're in the end of your life, many people, as a matter of fact, on average, most people live the last 12 years with chronic disease and disability. And you probably see that in your work as well, right? Those people who are all of a sudden getting older, and then they're just living with so much disease and disability that their life. So the gap is our opportunity. That's where we can really work. If we can extend the years we live in good health, and I think about my friend Betty, who just passed this weekend, who was 96 years old. And this was a little bit shocking, I think, for most people who knew her, because she lived so well up until the very end. She did not have this 12 years of disease and disability. She really was independent up until the last, I'm going to say, 6 months of her life. So that's a beautiful thing. Now, it wasn't a good thing for her. She just, her will to live once she could not function anymore really diminished, and also the loss of her pet. But regardless, we do have opportunities. And that's why I built the Bold Not Old framework. I came up with the name Bold Not Old because I think you have to be a little sassy, you have to be a little bold, and I want to talk loud and proud about this because if I can get a few people, to start thinking differently about their aging experience, then I'll take that as a win, right? And nobody wants to talk about aging, but if we talk about I'm going to be bold, not old, then I think I've got some people listening. And I think it starts with four different things. And that includes, first of all, reflection, right? And so I do workshops and I coach people on this. And that could be sometimes it's people who are just retiring and they're trying to figure out what are they going to do with the rest of their life. Or maybe somebody's a widow or something's happened in their life and they think, where am I? We start by the reflection, which is, how did I get where I am today? Right? What has my life been like? How do I think and how do I look and how do I live my life? So I think reflection on your past is important. You know, take a pause, look back and think, where have I come from? And for many people, there's also, not every family not everyone has had a good family. A lot of people struggle with family dynamics at this age. You might see that in your work as well, right? My daughter comes in and she wants me to sell the house, or they don't want me to sell because or senior living's too expensive. You get all these family dynamics. So I think just taking time to look back at your life and say, okay, I've been married this long, now I'm a widow, or I've lived in this home all these years and now I'm moving forward. But what is it that brought me here and what's working and what's not working? Because we have a chance. This is the opportunity. This is that gap to say, how do I want to live my life? And how often do we take the time to do that? Right? And that's where the intention comes in. Spending some time looking forward and saying, I'm no longer going to hang on to that. That's no longer serving me. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a habit, maybe it's a home, right? But what is it that I want? What is most important to me? That comes back to that person-centered care. What are my values? What are my preferences? I know I want to reduce the stress in my life, or I know I want to travel, or I know I want to focus on my family more, whatever it is. But spend some time really thinking about how do you want to live the rest of your life? And then you have to put that into action. Because I'm not talking about sitting down with people and helping them create a New Year's resolution. I'm talking about you've got, let's say 20 more years to live. What do you want to do with those 20 years? How exciting can this be? Right? So then you have to have some action. You got to put some work into making sure that every minute that you spend of your life is putting you towards your intention. Maybe it's moving away from some habits you used to have and moving towards this. So you're constantly working on that action part of it and saying, what am I doing in my life at this moment that's getting me towards my future goals? And then accountability, because we all have to have somebody who holds us accountable. And, our life is like this, right? Some days you're good, some days are bad, you're ups, you're downs. We're going to have all kinds of things. So that's kind of the framework that I put. And then I help people, and I encourage everyone to think about all the pillars that build up this, what I'll call the aging well. Right? If we want to live with intention and we want to live longer and better lives, we don't want to live those last 12 years of disease and disability. It's not just one thing that we have to do. So many times we think it's, well, I'm going to have to exercise, or well, I'm going to have to go to the doctor. Well, it's more than that. And that's what the research is showing. And that's what's exciting. So I'm going to go through each of these pillars quickly and also share with you some of the research, because this is not my beliefs. These are based on research that demonstrates All of these things are very important to longevity and living well. So quickly, their vitality, which to me is more than just movement, but we have to move our bodies, right? So when I was 19, I started teaching exercise classes in a nursing home, and that's how I came into gerontology. And I realized right then that if we can't move, when you think about somebody needs help with their activities of daily living, right? Y'all are familiar with that term. What is an activity of daily living? Bathing, dressing, being able to stand in the kitchen and cook a meal. When we can no longer do those things for ourselves, we require help. And the less we do for ourselves, I think the quicker our decline is, right? So vitality more is if I'm looking at my intentions, and for example, I'll use me, my intention is travel, 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 travel. I want to go everywhere, every minute, any chance I can. I will not be able to do that if I don't have the strength and the endurance, because as we just discussed, going to conferences or if you're going for fun, travel is it takes a lot of strength and a lot of energy. So that's vitality. Vitality is also sleep. It's it's what we eat. We're hearing certainly a lot more about that, right? We are consuming, basically poison. What we put into our bodies essentially is going to heal us or it's going to kill us. So that's all part of vitality. Resilience is the ability to adapt because we're going to have stuff. It's inevitable, right? We have loss, we have pain, we have change, transitions. You guys are in the middle of one of the biggest transitions of people's lives. And I'm going to go through this deck and I really want to hear from you because I'm sharing some things from you, but I would love to hear what you're seeing in your clients. So resilience is that ability to adapt, right? To manage stress, to improve relationships with people, and all of those good things. Lifestyle is just how you spend your time, right? If somebody spends their time, most of their day is spent in the recliner watching television, watching the news, how do you think that's going to impact your health and your life and your outlook? If your lifestyle is spending most of the time on your phone or most of the time complaining or at a casino. I've got an uncle I just visited and he's a gambler and he spends all of his days in the casino and it's smoke filled and it's probably not the best thing for him, but that's where he spends most of his time. So like I said, it's not one or nothing, but it's how these things all balance out your life. So vitality, resilience, lifestyle. I'll skip over to connections because that is getting a lot of buzz. I'm sure you've heard now that loneliness is indeed an epidemic, and it's not just with the aging population, right? Our younger folks are really challenged because all of their relationships are now on the phone or virtual. I did hear the other day a therapist that I listened to a lot of podcasts, and she has her first, client who now is in love with an AI bot, having a relationship with an AI person. So loneliness is not just an aging thing, but loneliness as the impact of being alone, and not just being alone, because we can be in a crowd of people and be lonely, right? But not having personal connections. And I don't mean, a social butterfly. I just mean people that you can talk to, who are there for you, who listen to you, people that matter to you. That's connections. That has as much of a negative impact as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So connections are important. And purpose is equally as important. If we no longer have the will to live, and again, I'll use my friend Betty. Once her cat died and her health started to change, her will was flat, and she was gone in 3 months. So we have to have a purpose. Legacy to me is what you want to leave behind, right? Who do you want to be remembered as? And also, to me, that includes all of the financial and legal things. What are your wishes? We're not all going to live forever. We are going to die. And I think we have to be very purposeful and looking forward and saying, this is my values, my preferences, this is how I want to live. So the research supports that, how important these pillars are. Only 20 to 30% of longevity is genetics. I'll let that sit for a minute. So when people say, well, it's inevitable that I'm going to have this happen, people think that we have no control over what happens to us. Only 20 to 30%, okay, can be blamed on genetics. So that means we have a lot of control in all of those pillars, what we eat, how we sleep, how we live, our connections, to change and to improve and reduce our likelihood of dealing with some of these chronic diseases that are killing us. We know that movement protects the brain and independence. And again, that's more functional to me than fitness, right? So if somebody says, well, my grandchildren are the most important thing to me, then what do you need to do in order to have an active life? You want to go to their graduation, but you can't get up the stairs in the stadium to see them graduate? Then these are all the kinds of thinkings with that intention and that action. This is what's important to me. So under vitality, I need to move in ways that are going to help me do that. Strength and fitness does predict lifespan. So that muscular strength, cardiorespiratory fitnesses are the strongest predictors of longevity and quality of life. Okay, so the research does support that if we focus on vitality, and that could be as simple as getting up and having, right now there's a lot of recommendations on walk 10 minutes after your meal, right? Something as simple as that. If you did nothing else, then do that. Even for the seniors I work with, I'll say, go out and get your mail every day. Get up in between things and move around. It does not have to be a huge thing. Remember, it's these small things that add up to contribute to the overall wellness. Resilience. We have to adapt. We know people who can't forget a pain, a suffering, a hurt that they've gone through. They never, ever, ever get over it. Resilience is important, and it does support healthier aging. And that's the ability, it gives you a higher resilience, linked to better physical function, lower rates of depression and disability, everything. Okay, so that resilience is important. Chronic stress. So when we talk about resilience, we talk about the ability to cope and adapt. If we have chronic stress, I think we all know what that looks like. We're all kind of dealing with that in day-to-day life. Life can be stressful, right? That accelerates aging, right? So we're seeing a movement towards mindfulness, towards, slowing down a little bit, trying to take a breath. My husband actually retired after 35 years. He was an engineer for Procter and Gamble, very high stress job. The week that I got laid off from my last job, he retired, and he was thrilled about it. I wasn't. So that's why I started my own company. But he ended up going on, and this year he got certified to teach yoga. So at 60 years old now, he is a yoga instructor. So he's been able to pivot and change more towards focusing on his mental and his physical health. Because if he had stayed with the company, if he'd even worked 5 more years, I think his outcome of his health would not have been good. And we all know what that looks like. Emotional regulation affects the body. So if we cannot regulate our emotions, if we get upset every time, your daughter doesn't call you or the grandkids don't do this or whatever, we're going to have higher inflammation, and we know that inflammation is not good. So it's across the board. Research supports that if we can be more resilient and adaptable with the changes in our life, the better we're going to be. Connections. Relationships protect health and purpose, We're going to see more and more. And again, it's high quality social connections, not just being surrounded by people, but feeling lonely. But it's more those important. I just came back from a family vacation. This is the first time I've ever went on vacation with my brother and his friend. My brother and I were estranged for many years for a variety of reasons. And we just took our first family vacations, and the connections that we had, we visited my two aunts and uncles. The connections that we made, I think, were so important for all of our health that I really, really resonated with the relationships and how they protect lower depression and anxiety. Isolation increases mortality risk. We talked about that a little bit. It raises early death risk by 26 to 29% comparable to smoking. We cannot be alone. And connection predicts longer, healthier lives. Purpose. Boy, this is an interesting one, because what does purpose mean? I mean, I think about the Walmart greeter. You think about that older person who just doesn't want to give up working, and they're at Walmart, they're out there greeting people. Think, why would you want to stand here all day and wave to people? Well, for that person, it could be their purpose. There's a lot of, I read a story the other day about a school, somebody who does, like at the schools, when the school buses are coming, and that person's out there directing traffic and that kind of stuff. And just how impactful that person is to the young people, and how impactful they are to that person. Purpose. Why do we get up? If we don't have a reason to get up every day, what's the likelihood we might stay in our pajamas for an extra couple of hours and start our day out slower? We have to have a reason, whatever that is. And studies do show it lowers mortality risk by having that purpose. I'll share that in a minute. I have a client that I helped her with her purpose, because as I do care management, I implement this. So I'm not the traditional care manager that's coming in saying, let's get you to the doctor, let's take your medicines, let's do this, let's do this. I use this framework for my clients, and I have to say it's been fairly impactful. And I think older adults appreciate that you're coming in and looking at their life and how well they live, and not just managing their disease and disability. Okay. And purpose remains protective even after controlling for health status, income, and depression. So again, all of these work together. This is just the example. This was my client, Gretchen. That's my husband. He has purpose when I asked him to put together the little cat buggy. But Gretchen has some mental health issues. When I met her, her brother actually hired me. She had been a hoarder when I was hired. I had to go in, help him clean out her place, and then we moved her to assisted living. She had been in the hospital 8 times in 6 months.
Wow.
All for mental health issues. Now, I was just getting to know this person. I kind of worked for the family, but he went back to New Jersey, and I had this person here, and her and I we just began the slow path of getting to know each other. And over time, I started to understand a little bit more about her. Nobody had ever asked her what she wanted. She had something called Turner syndrome, which made her very small. Her family treated her differently her whole life. She never had children. She couldn't have children because of her disease. She had never been married. She never had a relationship. Her family all she had left was her brother, and her health was going like this. And all the brother wanted me to do was medicate her and put her in a facility. And I was like, I don't know about that. So I started working with her, and over time, I just started giving her more and more autonomy, more decision-making over her own life. And she had showed dogs for a living. And she had a bad experience with the last dog because she was not on her medications. So she was not stable. She has bipolar. She had a lot of things going on. But once she started getting stable in her environment, taking her medications, having more control, having somebody listen to what mattered most to her, well, she wanted an animal. And everybody was like, "Oh gosh, don't do it. Don't do it." So I went with her to her former veterinarian. We sat down with him, and I kind of talked ahead of time, and we said, let's see if we can get her to take a cat. So we did. So we got her a cat, and this is the recent picture of her with her cat. And as you can see, she looks vibrant. She looks happy. She has not been in the hospital in about 8 months now. Since those last, she's not been in the hospital at all since she got the cat. So purpose, to me, this was her purpose. And she was lonely. She's not a joiner. She's in assisted living. They're always coming down. Oh, Gretchen, come and do some music. Gretchen, come and do this. She's not comfortable in those environments, but she needed purpose. She needed a connection. So we got her a cat, Sadie, and she's doing very well. So that is my example of it can really make a difference. Regarding the other pillars, lifestyle, again, it's more than just your behaviors. These are your daily routines. This is how you live. It's where you live. So if you have clients, I actually have somebody in my area who focuses on seniors, and she's a move specialist. And we sat down with a client who was just resistant to moving. And I was able to sort of work with them to get her through, because it's more than you're living in this place, but is it really benefiting what you want out of your life, right? So that lifestyle is your daily routines, your habits, your boundaries, rest, environment. If the house is not serving you well, if your routines daily, you spend them alone, or you only eat junk food, or whatever it is, it's those daily shapes that start to add up over time and start to work for you or against you. And consistency matters more than perfection. So it's not like I'm going to do everything right in my life. Of course we're not, right? I just got back from vacation. I thought, oh, I got to get back on track with the eating. Well, I'm meeting a friend for Italian tonight, so it's going to have to wait another day. So it's consistency matters more than perfection. It's more about how we spend our days, time after time after time, will have an impact either for the better or the worse. And legacy, as we talked about, it goes beyond just the finances. It's more about how you want to live, and how you set up your end of life, quite frankly. When I got downsized from my last job, I thought that was going to be the last job I ever had. I thought it was my dream job. Well, 3 years into it, the company was owned by bought by a tech company. 3 years later, they eliminated everybody. And when I looked at, I sat down that day and I said, is that how I want to end my career? Do I want to go out on that note? And I thought, absolutely not. So to me, that's how I built legacy in, is I want to build a business. I want to help people live better. That will be my legacy. So when I talk about bold, not old, it's never too late. You're not behind. You're right on time every day to choose a different way to not age, but to live your life. And living boldly isn't about doing more, but it's about doing what matters on purpose and with intention. And I think that was all I had there. So I think we can have a good conversation. Julie, is it okay if I stop sharing and then we can open it up to have a conversation?
Do you have a slide with your contact info?
I did. I can go back. Let me put that back up. I stopped sharing it. Hold on a minute. Now I've messed it all up. Give me just a second here. There we go. So that is my contact information. I'm in the Cincinnati area, but I do speaking, I do coaching, I do anything that I can do to get in front of people and talk about aging well. So I'm going to turn it over to Julie or to Skip, and I can close this out if you'd like.
April, did you say you were in the San Francisco area?
No, before you go, sorry, let me interrupt for a second.
Yeah,
Before you go off share, go back to the first slide with the shirt, with the blouse. There we go. We love it. We're gonna copy that, and then we'll even give you credit.
Isn't that from
You
a
need to
movie?
merch. You need to merch those. Are you
You
doing
know what?
that?
I am. Yeah, I'm going to. I'm going to. I'm on it, Julie. Thanks
Yes,
for
you are. Yes.
encouraging me. That's
Yeah.
all I needed was a little encouragement.
Isn't
Thank you,
that,
David, for letting me interrupt. Go ahead.
I'm actually in Cincinnati.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Yeah.
isn't that,
Where the people you work with, are they around you, or where do you do your thing?
Yeah, I've been doing care management locally, and so obviously that when I'm hands-on doing care management, that requires a local. But I do some virtual work too, consults either with families. I have a program called Empowered Caregiver, but I also do coaching virtually, and I will go anywhere to speak.
Okay, we need to have empowered caregiver as this next time. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
we do have, a significant portion of our clientele, our databases, our prospects, are the caregivers, and it's just an emerging emergency. I just made
Oh,
that
yeah.
up. It was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing here just so I can get it. And I know
Thank you.
you guys still have a meeting that you're going to have as well, so I don't want to take up.
Well, we can
too
have
much of your time.
questions. We can have anybody have any questions and comments and observations?
April, this is Lynn, and everything you say is so relevant to what I'm experiencing with my own family.
Good.
And I was just curious how you got into it. I know you mentioned that you and your husband sound like you were burnt out from your first career and you started this. How did you see the need? Did you just, yeah.
Yeah. So, I've worked all across the continuum in hospitals, home health, nursing homes, et cetera, throughout my whole life. So I've been sort of helping organizations represent their brand, right? So you're out there speaking about whatever company it is. And then after this last downsizing, I thought, you know what? I have too much left to say. And then I started doing the care management because I really wanted to get back in and get into the weeds. And you know what I mean by that, right? I wanted to see what the hell is going on out here when I take a client to the hospital or to the doctor, or when I try to find them a nursing home or an assisted living. I wanted to really understand what it was like out here because in the past for years, I've been up here sort of speaking, talking, doing all this kind of stuff with companies. But what's it really like? So I spent the last 3 years doing care management so I could really understand what seniors are saying, what families are dealing with. So I could really and that got me fired up. And when that got me fired up, I realized I can only help so many clients at a time doing care management. And quite frankly, it's a heavy load. I just lost one of my clients and she was dear to me. And I walked her to the end of her life, and that's hard work. So I decided to start, I'll keep a few small clients, but I really wanted to do more virtual and more speaking and coaching so I could try to help more people. And so I think that's where my roadmap has been in the last 3 years.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to bring up the fact that April is a fellow CSA. In fact, that's how I met her. We're both on the editorial board for a quarterly journal, and she's done so much really good work with the journal and all things with CSA that I knew that she'd be a great speaker to have. So that's why we brought her on board.
Yeah, there's so much work in this space, and thank you for everything that you're doing. And thank you for committing yourself to understanding the needs and how different they are for our aging population, and also being open-minded to this topic. Because sometimes in the healthcare space, I find most people still want to keep the same mindset about aging, and we just can't do that anymore.
Hi, Skip. Long time no
We
see.
have a question.
Oh my gosh, the limey.
So nice to see you there. What does CSA stand for? Sorry for my ignorance here.
Certified Senior Advisor.
Thank you.
I'll
no,
talk to you way more about that later.
Okay,
We gotta
perfect.
get, we
Don't get
gotta,
him started.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Skip. Take care.
okay.
And I am happy to send this deck out to anyone. I'm happy to help you in any way. If you just have a question or you want to talk about something, please feel free to reach out. I'm an open book.
Well,
Cool.
I'm serious when I say we want to have you back to talk about the caregiver discussion
Sure.
because in and amongst ourselves, we do have caregivers in our network
Yeah.
of colleagues,
Yeah.
and then as well as our clients and database, everybody. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, just about everybody now. I mean,
Everybody's a caregiver.
you can't not know anybody. That's
No.
like, yeah.
No, and it's a, it's a big topic of interest now because the caregiver's health is being impacted considerably.
Yeah.
And there's also, from the aging adult and the family caregiver, there's this sort of dynamic that's not always easy. Which is why sometimes having a neutral person, I mean, I can help people outside of my family, but when it comes to my own family, not so much. So, but I don't have the emotions attached to it. I lost my own parents to murder suicide related to
Oh,
dementia.
wow.
So I've seen what it's like from all aspects of people, and I think we deserve better to be able to live with dignity and to die with dignity as well. So it can be a tough journey.
And it's just beneficial to us to have a little bit of a better understanding when we're working with our clients because it is such a highly, I don't know, what's the word? The transaction, any type of financial transaction for a family is so high, the highest stress that any family can go through at whatever age.
Yeah,
It's just also
it's
it's multi-layered. It's multi-layered.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be, if you're in a professional, like you said, I don't know if it was you or it was Julie that said, is like there's people that are focusing on the senior market. Senior market is huge, it's massive. Does that start after age 60 or does that start 90? You have 97-year-olds that are touring assisted livings and going, I'm going to need this one day. No, today's the day, lady.
Yes,
Today's the
yeah.
day. And then
Right.
you have people that are very, very resistant.
Mhm.
But if you're really devoted like Julie is and Skip is, you really know that the professionals that are devoted for this particular age group is like it's the family dynamics and you're like an octopus
Yes.
really trying to manage all these things that you even talked about today is another piece of it because okay, this is the situation and this is the stage. Now you're dealing with everybody's emotions and what their perspectives are and who's stuck with grief and who's stuck with I hate my sister because what she did to me when I was 8 years
right.
old. And
Yes.
it's like
You
a
guys are in the
chemistry,
moment.
it's like a chemistry experiment.
It is. It is. Yeah. And so I think it's important to understand all these things. And I think that's kind of where I feel as a gerontologist, because I'm not a nurse, I'm not a social worker. I don't look at that way, but I look at why is this older adult resistance? Why are they fighting this so much? And then when the family or other people start pushing, what do? They're going to put their fur up and they won't make any decisions. So we have to understand approach it from the lens of that older adult. There is meaning behind the behavior. We have to find it and understand it and then be able to collaborate with all the other decision makers to get to the outcome that we need, which is to perhaps sell the house.
Well, as I mentioned in my SRES course, we all wear different hats, and there's so many hats that you really have to be able to be flexible and understand a lot of things in a lot of different areas, and that's kind of why we're all here. Is we don't have to be the professional. You just have to know where to go to find the professional, and that's why we're here.
Yeah. And I thank you again for inviting me and for giving me a voice here to talk about something that I'm passionate about. And if there's anything I can help any of you with, please reach out.
Well, thank you, April, so much.
Yes. And I don't know if you guys are still going to have a meeting, but I'll hop off and let you to it.
you so
All right.
much, April. We'll keep you posted.
Yes.
Keep you. We'll just keep you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And
Next
then
week.
now we'll go on a little bit of an update for what's happening on Thursday. So for the tour at Twin Oaks Hollister and Trilogy San Juan Oaks in Hollister. By the end of today, everything should be all confirmed. We're leaving here Thursday morning at 9 o'clock from the office. And we're not getting a luxury bus, but we are getting a beautiful passenger van.
So long as it's a truck.
Yeah, it's a beautiful passenger van. The bus wasn't available, and I called around, tried to find another one, and that was a quagmire. So, but by the end of today, everybody who's signed up, I should get confirmations if there's, we're at capacity, but if there's any last minute changes, I do have a waiting list going on for Thursday. So I'm really excited about this. And then since it is coming up this week, and I want everybody to
Can
go
I
ahead,
ask
Lynn.
sorry. Okay, so you know what's going on with me. But I would still like to join there and then go to my listing appointment in Morgan Hill at 2:30. So can I meet you guys there?
So Lynn, yes, we'll talk offline and we'll get all those logistics set for sure.
Okay,
For
I
sure,
just
yeah.
wanted to see what time you guys
Yeah,
were going to be
yeah.
there. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get those logistics for you for
Okay.
sure. I'll do
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
And thank
then,
you for organizing that.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
This is going to be because I want to do this every month. So start to think about, well, I already kind of have an idea of where I want to go next month. The end of June, the last week of June, we're going to go to Lathrop. There's 2 developments, 55 and over, one in Lathrop, one next door in Tracy. One is Pulte, Del Webb. The other one is Toll Brothers, Tracy Lakes.
Okay.
So, oh, and I will say, this Thursday we will be hosted. So there's going to be hospitality when we get there. We're going to be having treats. They're going to be treating us.
Yeah.
Then we're going out to a lunch at the club at McCann's, which is at the golf course. And then we're going to Trilogy.
Okay.
So all of these tours I'm arranging sort of in this fashion, and getting developers to, offer up hospitality is a feat in itself. So,
Yes.
but I'm going to continue that. So that's the idea.
Thank you, Judy.
So everybody too, maybe so think about, or maybe we'll go someplace cool in July because it's July.
Oh, yeah.
There's a beautiful, I want to go to a senior living. It's not new construction. It's all resale community in Sonoma. It's called The Villages, I think.
Oh, okay.
But it's high upscale in Sonoma, the Sonoma area. So that would be kind of fun in July. That wouldn't be too hot. Okay. And then, so that's what's going on. And next week we have Todd. I'm so excited, from Clutter Cleaner. And he's not here right now. He's out on vacation, the little bugger. He's in Banff. He's in Banff.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I know. Banff. But Clutter Cleaner. So, and if anybody wants to Google in advance, Google Clutter Cleaner, Google Matt Paxton, Google Todd. Todd is amazing in and of himself. They're the NASM members, the National Association of Senior Move Managers, and Clutter Cleaner. And Matt Paxton is the national TV show of Filthy Fortunes, which is on like HGTV, and they go in and they do exactly what the name says, Clutter Cleaner. And Filthy Fortunes, they're in a couple seasons now. They go in and they help homeowners with the whole home full of stuff, and they find the fortune in the mess, and they make a lot of money. They're Well, they're all over the country. And Todd's from Indiana, and Liz just asked if they're from our area. And Matt, I think, is from Texas, but I could be corrected. Anyway, that's going to be next week. That's going to be amazing. So kind of like, have you ever guys watched American Pickers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So American Pickers, right? That Mike and his brother Robbie, they go all over the country. Well, Matt does sort of the same thing. Yeah. So, for example, for us as professionals in this business, if we happen to, and we have a lot of opportunity in our area to run across a home that may be in a condition, but there might be something in that condition. And we do have a couple of our colleagues, Changing Places, JMPO, Joan McCreary, our local people that also do this kind of service. And we do watch out for those kinds of homes. And it is a service that we can provide as well. So if that's next week, that's going to be fun. Does anybody else have anything they want to share?
Julie, could you repeat the name of those companies? The one after Clutter Cleaner?
Oh, Changing Places.
No. The one that the fortune is in the junk. That one.
Oh, Filthy Fortunes.
Filthy Fortune.
Yeah.
And it's going to be here next week?
Yeah, Todd will be here next week, and I'll have all of that information. Guess where?
And, is there ever a chance that clients can tune in so they can hear this information firsthand? Especially
Well,
because just about all of our seniors have too much clutter.
Yeah.
oh yeah. Well, okay, so it's your job to do that. And
They
if
can
you
hear
want to
it
do
from
a
me.
consumer facing thing to do that, do it. You already are doing it, Micklin.
I am, but they
You
hear it
are
so much
doing it.
better. They hear it so much better because I don't clean up anybody's house. I don't hardly clean up my own.
No,
When they
we
hear-
don't do that. That's not our job. We do not pack boxes.
No, but
We
if they
tell
can hear
people
it
who to
directly,
call.
but
Who
exactly,
to
but
call.
they
And
can
then
hear it
they
directly.
do, and they do. That's their business.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't pack boxes. We don't empty drawers. We don't do any of that. Micklin, we do have all of our recordings on the website, but what we do here and what we do for the consumers and our clients are kind of a couple different things. So you should, because you have your channel going, you have all your stuff going. After Todd does next week, you could probably get Todd or even Joan or even Margaret at Changing Places to
Okay.
do a seminar for you, a webinar
That's
for
a
you
deal.
and your database.
Okay, I can do that. Thank you.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Amazing. I like the fact that you can find filthy fortunes and find and I believe that stuff that's been in the closet and in drawers you never knew that you had or you forgot about it altogether. Beautiful.
You know what he finds a lot? He finds gold,
Yes.
finds silver. One episode he found, or the homeowner had, I don't know, a whole outbuilding full of comics.
Mm.
And all the animation, well, not anime, but the collectibles. And some of the editions that they found, they were already in the plastic covers. They were first editions, some Ed Hardy, I think. First editions, some signed. Yeah. So what Matt does, and to Clutter Cleaners with Todd, during the process, he will call in buyers. So during the process in this episode, during the process of cleaning and boxing and estimating, somebody on his crew is calling around. Who's interested? Who's interested? Who has capacity? They will even fly out to whatever location they're at, and they will say, okay, we've got this much inventory of comic books and other memorabilia. How about $15,000?
Wow.
And they're like, oh, negotiate, 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 back and forth, and then it gets sold
Mm.
with
Wow.
all kinds of stuff. He did it with a boat, a yacht. I mean, just everything in outbuildings.
It's just their cut.
It's all negotiated. Barbara just asked me how much is their cut. It's all negotiated. It's negotiated with the homeowner, the seller, and they make a deal because the crew is doing the work. And then the homeowner, the mission is to get the work done and the homeowner into a good space. And everything is negotiated. All the work, all the product, and the end result for the homeowners. And they're staying. They're not doing this to sell the house. Most of the time they're staying. Sometimes they're doing it to sell the house, but most of the time it's just to help that family.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's exciting. All right, everybody. Say hi to Katie.
Hey, I've
Hi,
got another meeting.
Katie.
Hi, Julie. How are you?
Good. All right,
Good.
everybody.
Sorry I'm late. It's over?
Yeah. So we will see everybody who's coming on Thursday. And then if anybody has any more questions, just give me a shout out, a text or an email, and then we'll see everybody next week.
So you have the full
I'll
bus.
text you, Julie, about location and where I'm supposed to meet you.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, I'm going to be confirming with everybody by the end
Okay.
of the day.
Okay.
All the
Yeah,
logistics.
Julie, is it better to call or to text you or to email you?
So just I'll be sending out the information and then we'll figure out the logistics from there.
Okay, you'll email everyone. Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Thank
Just
you.
one quick thing for the group, because I do a lot of referral business,
Yeah.
especially with the CSAs. Is there a network of some sort, like if my clients are moving to Florida, for instance, if they are there a group of CSAs where I can refer them to?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
And
Okay.
there's a couple different ways that you can access that. First of all, by asking us.
Oh,
And then we
perfect.
have people we have firsthand contacts, first level
good.
contacts
Oh,
in
perfect.
Florida. So we'll find out the area in Florida. And then on our CSA website, csa.us, there is a CSA locator page.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
I've
get
been
you.
asking Mike Scoggins and he's been, but they're actually moving to, I think it's Arizona, but that's fine, the one I'm in contract with.
We
Okay,
have that in
thank
there.
you.
We have people in Arizona too.
Okay, thank you.
All right, everybody.
Question.
Michelin, did you have?
Real quick,
Go ahead.
you said you are at capacity, so that's all 15 seats, and you have a waiting list.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the cost, you're gonna go over that?
Yeah, I'll be sharing that with everybody as soon as I know what it is. Because I have no idea.
Okay.
It'll happen.
Okay, cool.
Bye, Julie.
Okay, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a blessed day.
Okay, thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.